And Chief Political Analyst David Brody is here with us now. David, this was billed to be an epic day on Capitol Hill. One of the biggest takeaways, as Amber just mentioned in her report, was Mueller's performance. Not at all what Democrats were expecting.
No, as a matter of fact, Robert Mueller stole the stage, but not in the way Democrats thought he would. They were hoping for the viral soundbite from Robert Mueller. Instead, it became the viral visuals of Robert Mueller really struggling through this. I'll be honest with you, on a personal note, I felt kind of sad for him, a bit sorry for him. And if you didn't see the hearing and all 7 hours of it, we compiled a little bit of what Robert Mueller looked like today. Have a look.
To what extent did the Russian government interfere in the 2016 presidential election?
Could you repeat that, ma'am? Can you repeat the question?
And which candidate would that be?
Well, it would be Trump.
Correct.
Now,
let me ask you, when did you first learn of Peter Strzok's animus toward Donald Trump?
in the summer of 2017.
You didn't know before he was hired?
I'm sorry, what did you?
You didn't know before he was hired for your team?
Know what?
Good morning, Director Mueller. Madeleine Dean.
Yeah, it's real tough to watch, I'll be honest with you, and not what the Democrats wanted at all.
Yeah, David, his performance aside, both sides here, and you saw it today, are going to try to spin this into their political advantage. Right,
and so it started out well for the Democrats, and Amber played some of that, what we call sound, from Jared Nadler and Robert Mueller, and basically Mueller saying, I don't exonerate the president, and so that was relatively powerful, and then it went womp from there. I mean, it became relatively disastrous, but the Democrats will at least say there was something there. But then again, we know already that even though Donald Trump said, I've been totally exonerated, I think everybody knows, even his base knows, okay, we know you're puffing that up a little. We know you weren't totally exonerated, but that's okay.
One word that we heard a lot of, David, is the word purview.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I tweeted this today. He had a little purview button there next to, you know, it's out of my purview, out of my purview. He kept saying it. He must have said it about 75 to 100 times. And so we wanted to put together a little something here because there was one part, well, I shouldn't say one part, many parts where the Republicans brought up the Steele dossier. You know, we've heard about this, about how did Christopher Steele actually have information from the Russians when it came to conspiracy about Donald Trump. Well, if that's the case, why didn't Mueller investigate that? That's what Republicans were pushing for. But Robert Mueller went back on the not my purview line. Take a look.
With regard to the Steele, that's beyond my purview.
No, it is exactly your purview, Director Mueller, and here's why. Now, if Russians were lying to Steele to undermine our confidence in our duly elected president, that would seem to be precisely your purview, because you stated in your opening that the organizing principle was to fully and thoroughly investigate Russia's interference. But you weren't interested in whether or not Russians were interfering through Christopher Steele. And if Steele was lying, then you should have charged him with lying like you charged a variety of other people. But you say nothing about this in your report.
We should point out that the Republicans tried to do quite a bit with the Christopher Steele dossier today, but it didn't work either because Robert Mueller said at the beginning of his testimony, I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah, he laid down those ground rules. The hearing was maybe a little confusing, maybe even frustrating for some viewers who are watching. Mueller often gave just one-word answers and often said that he can't respond using the under my purview response. So a question that maybe a lot of folks have is, what was the point?
Well, that's a really good question. And Donald Trump and his folks will say there was no point to it. But here was the point, at least in theory, by Democrats. They were hoping to influence public opinion and in the process change the game. The problem is, well, let me back up. Richard Nixon, this is what they point to. They say, look, public opinion was okay for Richard Nixon, and then it went downhill after they started holding these hearings and bringing people in front. The problem is that there were a lot of smoking guns with Richard Nixon, right? There was the break-in, there was the Saturday Night Massacre, there were the tapes, all of that. You don't have any smoking guns here. As a matter of fact, today, no smoking guns, no bombshells, no viral moment, a total disaster for the Democrats, and that's being nice.
Yeah, hoping that they could go further with impeachment if they could sway public opinion.
Right.
David, where do things go from here?
Well, I mean, at this point, you know, Democrats have a decision to make, and they've always had that decision to make. Are they going to go through with impeachment proceedings? I can't see it happening. I think the writing is on the wall, and I think we saw that.